Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I have with me Crypto Rowan. I mean, that's not really his name, Crypto Rowan. His name is Rowan though, and he's one of the team at Horizen, ticker symbol Zen, and we're going to be getting an update on what's been happening with Horizen as they roll out their platform and their products and stuff. Now, before I introduce him, please subscribe, comment, like, all that business. Follow me on Twitter, Crypto Rich YT. Join my Telegram announcement channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, come over to BitTube. At BitTube, you can earn cryptocurrency for surfing the internet. Plus, also, a day will come when YouTube will ban crypto YouTubers and alternative voices completely. So I post my videos on BitTube a day or so before I post them on YouTube. So come over to BitTube.
Bitcoin, the best money we've ever had. With a different kind of money comes a different kind of card. A metal card, powered by crypto. Every time you spend, you get 3% back instantly. Want more? We've got that too. Don't like fees? Neither do we. How about these perks? The future is here. Reserve yours now.
Hey, Rowan, how you doing? Thank you so much for making yourself available.
No, thank you for having me. Doing really well, thanks. How about yourself?
I am very, very well. You are in, that is such a great backdrop. And I know you've got it to absorb the sound, but it just looks, you're in a nightclub in Panama. It's like,
My very own personal nightclub. Yeah, this room was literally just my desk in the corner and nothing else. So it was just an echo chamber. But now it's a little bit more dampened, a little bit easier to have a conversation like this without horrible audio.
Great. And what we're going to be doing is finding out about what's happening with Horizen. And I think a couple of months ago, I had Robert on from the team.
Yep, Rob is team lead and co-founder.
Yeah,
Rob Viglione.
So I had Rolf on a few months ago, and the first time I've had him on, and we're going to have an update on what's been happening with Horizen since then. Do you want to start by saying a little bit about what you do at Horizen?
Sure, can do. So I look after business development and operations. So that's essentially making sure that Zen is as useful as physically possible and ultimately making best use of the technology stack that Horizen's building, bringing it into the market and getting a variety of different enterprise businesses, developers, and different people involved and actively using it.
Okay.
And then on the operations side, I get to do some of the fun stuff. So let's make sure that we are actually working as a complete full stack business and we have clear metrics on what good performance looks like and we're managing our budget correctly and all that sort of kind of back of house process type stuff that's super essential to a well-oiled ship.
Very good. Okay. And then what is Horizen? Please give it to us in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, so Horizen is a technology platform. And one of the kind of main differences, at least from my perspective, is that we are providing technology to enable developers, application developers, end users to build things on top of the Horizen ecosystem. So we are an enabling technology platform.
Okay. And what do you mean by enabling? Aren't they all enabling? What makes you distinct?
So for me, there's two kind of routes here when you create a technology platform. You can either create a suite of technology and then charge into the market with a variety of end user focused products, which is kind of the more, at least in this market that we're in, the more standard approach. But for us, doesn't seem to be the most scalable way to do it. So we want to, instead of creating all of the end user products ourselves, we want to seed the market by showing what this technology stack is capable of, by creating a few distinct kind of reference applications and simple applications that are almost going to act more like a case study or a walkthrough. So having like a set of instructions of this is how you use the technology, and the set of instructions has an output of a simple application. And that really demonstrates to a developer how to extend the SDK into different use cases. So rather than us creating all the end user products, we want to have a technology platform that's very much self-service that enables developers to create whatever they want to create using the core technology and the core infrastructure of the Horizen network.
Right. And then people can then choose to go and develop and build on that as they wish to.
Exactly. And for us, that's much more scalable because we're only a small team. I mean, we have a pretty large team to be fair, but there's only so much that we can achieve ourselves. So rather than trying to create a suite of different end user products in lots of different individual business verticals, from supply chain or automotive to oil and gas to whatever business vertical makes sense, it makes a lot more sense for us to partner with developer houses and kind of individual developers, provide them the technology and have them go out and develop whatever their expertise is. So developers that are well versed in the supply chain sphere working on those applications, gaming developers working on things for the gaming ecosystem, and so on and so forth.
Right. Okay. But how does the economics work? I'm going to ask you a question, then attempt to answer it myself, right?
Sure.
Assume your technology is open source, because that's the tendency in the blockchain space. So why couldn't a project come along and say, hey, listen, well, they're just going to use the open source technology themselves? How is Horizen as a project going to derive any revenue from that?
So that's a really good question. We have a sidechain framework. So when we're talking about this technology platform, what we've built is the first properly decentralized sidechain system. So typically a sidechain system would have a small federation of trusted nodes or trusted parties or certifiers, lots of different terms for essentially the same thing. And how it works is transfers from the main chain to the sidechain go through this centralized party. And this centralized party has control over whether a transaction is valid or invalid. So they can essentially call the shots. And for us, that kind of removes the core value prop of blockchain. The whole point of blockchain for me is it decentralizes trust and it creates real digital immutability. But if you have this centralized kind of source of truth, you've killed both of your main value props. So what we've built instead is a completely decentralized version of a sidechain framework. And you're right, it is completely open source. However, there's a small kind of caveat to that I'll explain in a little second. So anybody can come along and they can take our sidechain SDK and they can take all the different libraries that we've built and we've open sourced, and they can use that to create product services applications. Where it becomes a little bit difficult and time consuming is one of the core pieces that's really, really quite technically difficult to put together is the kind of proving system. So in our open source delivery, we have a relatively simple and basic proving system. And this is because we're in beta right now. So we're showing, here's the framework, here's the types of things that are possible, and here's an example proving system that you can use for this first draft of whatever you want to build. Now, if you're an application developer, you can go away and create your own proving system and extend our open source kit to use whatever you want to use. But that's quite a significant amount of work. It's a large undertaking, even for the most experienced developers. And we recognize that. And for us, it's not good enough to have a kind of part-baked solution. So we went a step further. And I don't know if you remember previous conversations, but we have two organizations. So there's the Zen Blockchain Foundation, which is the not-for-profit, open source, community-driven organization that's looking after the core blockchain. That's where the 40,000 nodes and the actual main chain of Horizen kind of live, if you like. And then there's also a for-profit software development company called Horizen Labs, kind of like the Ethereum consensus relationship, same deal here. And Horizen Labs is basically going to be like an accelerator type for Horizen sidechains. So it's out in the market, selling solutions and actually guiding enterprise businesses through the process of launching their own sidechain. But it's also going to develop its own unique proving system. And it's going to offer that as a product. And that product will ultimately kind of fast track the launch of a sidechain. So that will really accelerate the ability for businesses, developers to launch whatever they need to launch. And the monetization side is really quite interesting because it's actually one of the most attractive parts of the entire framework that we've built. So we recognize that if you're a developer and you want to build an application, typically the way it works for monetization is you have a bunch of consultancy time and you're going to charge a business to write or to program whatever you're making. And then you're probably going to have some sort of recurring maintenance fee that will go to the business. But there's nothing kind of long term. There's no real scalable upside. If that product that you build becomes massively successful, your upside is locked at whatever you charged for the development of it, plus whatever your maintenance fee is. So the model that we have is slightly different. Every time a transaction is made in main chain to side chain, there's a tiny transaction fee. And although we're talking about really micro amounts that are practically irrelevant, we've given developers the option to configure a kind of profit splitting mechanism. So, for example, if you backtrack a little second here and get myself muddled up. So if you use Horizen Labs proving system, you use the product that gets your sidechain up and running really, really quickly. You're going to have a tiny little transaction fee that goes to Horizen Labs. But the cool thing is, as a developer, you can decide how much of that transaction fee you want to take for yourself. So if you build an application and it becomes successful and it has a large number of transactions, you're going to have a really nice scalable revenue coming directly from the application itself, in addition to whatever you charge to build it and whatever you charge to maintain it. So from a developer's perspective, very, very attractive. And that's also how we monetize as well. Very tiny transaction fee on each time a transaction is made. And that goes back in to try and make sure that there's more funds there to develop the ecosystem further.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. So, Rowan, how does the Zen coin factor in with the side chains?
So Zen is essentially the fuel. So when you create, use the Ethereum reference again, when you create a smart contract in Ethereum, you're going to fuel that smart contract with gas. Very, very similar method for Horizen sidechains. If an enterprise business or an individual or developer or anybody wants to launch a sidechain, they need to fuel that sidechain with Zen. And that'll pay for the transaction fees within their own application environment. So what we expect is that as the demand for Horizen sidechains increases, so too will the demand for Zen as a coin.
And like with gas and Ethereum, it's micro payments, right?
We're talking tiny transaction fees, yeah. And that comes back to what I mentioned before. Developers have that incentive where they can take a percentage of these gas payments for themselves.
Right, tiny micro percentages of micro payments over time, and as more and more applications are being used, the demand increases. All right.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking micropayments, but it's really important to understand the magnitude of scale because, for example, one of the use cases we're working on has the potential to add something like 250 million transactions to the Horizen blockchain per month. So a phenomenal amount of transactions.
That's one application.
One application. So I mean, that one application is the biggest stress test ever. We've talked a big talk. We've been building for the past 2 or 3 years, and we've been talking about building a truly scalable, truly decentralized sidechain framework. Now, this one application is going to put that talk to the test. This is going to be a real make or break, and we're confident. We know that it's going to work. But this is what the beta period's for. It's for really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with the technology we've built. So that when we do move to production, we have a kind of an edge. We have an edge of the box where we know beyond this boundary is too far. And everything within this boundary is fair game. But specifically when we come to transaction fees, even if we're talking about 0.0001, which is a standard transaction fee on the Horizen blockchain, if you times that by 250 million, it's still a significant amount of revenue. So if you build an application that gets real world adoption, you have the success of putting your hat on something like that in itself, but you also have a scalable revenue source coming directly from the application you create.
And then do you want to start by letting us know what's been happening? We got HDE and HEAP and the wonderfully named Zendoo, which we come to the end.
A lot of acronyms. I'm kind of seeing that. It's maybe a little bit overkill. So they're pretty good, actually. HEAP. I like HEAP a lot. I think it's a little bit silly, but it's a great acronym. So what are these? So HDE, Horizen Developer Environment, super important. We're building a developer framework, developer toolkit. We're building an application platform. So without developers actively interested in building stuff, we've completely wasted our time. So it is imperative that we get some really good engagement from the development community, and we show them that the technology we built is very robust, very flexible, and super easy to use, and a really great option for them to build their product services on top of. But the kind of first stages of this is really to build up the size of our existing developer community. Clearly, we're open source, but like most open source projects, the majority of the work that's done on Horizen is done by the core team. And that's really something we want to try and shift. We want to try and get to a point where we have real decent participation from the entire development community. And Horizen Developer Environment is kind of the first step in that process. So we want to make it fun and easy to contribute. Right now, there's no difference contributing to Horizen from anything else. You just jump into GitHub, you can raise an issue, you can fork off a library, make some changes, request for it to be merged back in. You can do whatever you want to do in the standard open source environment. But we want to really open the door and welcome people in and make it really simple. So we've created a variety of different initiatives to do that. We have things like the Zen improvement process, which is clearly just a kind of modified version of the Bitcoin improvement process, but with our own spin on what we deem to be a suitable process for merging improvements or suggesting improvements. So that's kind of one of the core parts. But HDE itself is a platform, and it's a platform where if you're a developer and you're interested in taking part, you can jump in. You can see a variety of open bounties. You can see things that we are actively welcoming participation in. And ultimately, we want to get to a point where this is a gamified place. So we want to make it really fun to take part. We want to have things like leaderboards. So you can start off as a recently junior developer. You can kind of learn as you go and take care of some really low-level problems. But then as your reputation builds within the Horizen developer environment, you'll get exposed to more complex problems and so on and so forth. We'll have kind of leaderboards and things like that and layered through the bounty program. So we just want to make it fun and easy for anybody to jump in and participate in the development of Horizen.
And people can connect to that through the main website?
Yeah, there's links through on the main website, absolutely. And I can provide a direct link after this that you can stick underneath in the YouTube.
Great. And the Zen improvement process.
So that's kind of the framework that we've laid out.
I don't think you heard me. I got it, right? Zip. I like that. You didn't
exactly.
All right. Okay. All right. So anything else on HDE if people want to get involved in that, or anything else you want to say?
HDE.horizen.global. Come and check it out. Plenty bounties there that are active. Welcome as much participation as you're willing to do.
Okay. And when did it start up, and what sort of response have you had?
It's super recent. This started, maybe lying if I gave you an exact date, but I think we're probably around about 2 or 3 weeks in. And we had a pretty good startup. We had about 200, 220 developers signing into it. But that's a tiny fraction of what we're looking for. We're aiming big here, and we really want as much participation as possible.
Yeah, and my understanding is that good quality developers are very thin on the ground globally. Is that
for sure, yeah. I mean, there's an ever-expanding demand for good developers, and as the demand grows, the pool of developers available isn't growing. So, yeah, for sure, it's difficult to get really, really good talent. Something that we've struggled with a lot in the past. Our director of R&D, Alberto, is a fantastically talented software architect and developer, and he has, I think, if for most developers coming across him and having to go through an interview, he has kind of impossibly high standards, which is brilliant for us. It means that we really whittle out most of the kind of run-of-the-mill developers and really end up with the best of the best. And we're really proud of the engineering team that we've built now, based in Milan, in Italy. Really, really top-tier, fantastic quality team.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. HEAP.
HEAP, another fantastic acronym. So HEAP is the Horizen Early Adopter Program. So if somebody's interested in finding out before the masses, about what's being built, how it's being released, and how to actually get involved and participate, then HEAP is where they should go. They can sign up through there, and they'll receive all the information well in advance of everybody else. And they can also really help us hone our product offering, because we're building a really generalizable framework. And the aim from our perspective is to make it as applicable to as many different business verticals as physically possible. But to do that, we need a huge amount of feedback from people that are specialized in each of these areas. So they can tell us what we're missing, what could be done better, how could the flow work better, how could it be more efficient, what would make it easier to use, things like that. So HEAP is a great way to get a heads up, like I say, on new product. And it's also a great way to provide feedback, which will ultimately help us improve the product as we go along.
Right. And what sort of person are you looking for?
So for HEAP, it can be anything from a reasonably junior developer right up to the most senior developers. We're really looking for feedback from all different ranges and all different skill sets. And that's important because we want it to be accessible. It's no use us making a system that is only useful to the absolute best of the best that have lots of experience. And we want to really lower the barrier to entry and get to a point ultimately where almost anybody can jump in, launch a sidechain quite easily, and then start extending the framework out to suit their application. Now, to be fair, we're a very long way away from that. Right now, we're aiming for kind of modularity. So we're aiming to have different components or different reference designs. For example, the first reference design is a sidechain using Ouroboros Praus, essentially a modified version of Cardano's proof of stake. But the aim would be to have a suite of reference designs for different purposes, just so that you can kind of jump in and have something that's a pretty close fit for what you want in terms of blockchain, and then you can start building your application on top of that.
Right. And
fast track the development process.
These people that join HEAP, they don't have to be in companies or businesses representing them. It can be individuals.
Absolutely.
Anybody who's got at least some basic developer knowledge, all the way through to Vitalik Buterin and Satoshi Nakamoto if they wanted to join as well.
For sure. And it doesn't even have to be developers. If you're just interested in the technology deliverables and the roadmap and what the team at Horizen are doing, then you can still jump into the early adopter program and you can still get a stream of news as and when it comes out. So it's a great way to see what's happening under the skin as well.
Right. Okay. And this, but how is this different, say, from your Medium articles or your Twitter feed or announcements on Discord and stuff?
So the early adopter program is heavily technically biased. So it's all about the product. It's about the sidechain ecosystem, and it's about the components and the libraries that go into that to make it possible. So things like GingerLib, which is a zero knowledge proof library. It's showing the development community what we're building, why we're building, and asking for feedback to try and make sure that it's fit for purpose and that the product market fit is going to be right when it actually launches. And there's a stream of news that's available in Horizen Early Adopter Program before it's available elsewhere. So it's kind of a sneak preview of what's coming.
Right. Okay. All right. And then has it started and how's the take-up been?
Really good so far. Really, really good. As I said, our development community at the moment is relatively small. Completely open and honest. We don't have an enormous development community. We've done a really good job of building a community full stop, but the development community within that is a small subset. And this is really us putting real focus and real attention on growing and maturing that part of our community.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anything else you want to let us know about HEAP?
No, we'll provide a link so you can check it out directly underneath the YouTube video.
All right. Thank you. And then finally, actually, it may not be finally. And now, what about Zendoo?
So Zendoo is actually the name of our sidechain protocol. And if you go into GitHub and check out how it's written, you'll kind of see the little, I guess, the little trick there. But it's Zen_D and then the infinity symbol, because we're creating a framework that can be extended to any use case. So that the possibilities are endless.
All right. So what does Zendoo do?
What does Zendoo do? That's
what can I do with Zendoo?
You can launch a sidechain of your own with Zendoo. Zendoo is the protocol that makes it possible. And one thing that just came along with so I remember we spoke previously and I mentioned that we're moving into something like a beta preview. We did a bit of a Microsoft stunt where we did a preview of beta, and now we've moved from preview into full beta. And the main difference between preview and full beta is that now we have a section within Sphere by Horizen that allows the launch of sidechains.
Right. Okay.
Excuse me. So making it much easier to both launch and manage a sidechain from the main application that we have, which is Sphere, essentially our wallet.
So who are you looking for to try out Zendoo?
So initially, we're looking for experienced Java developers. Doesn't necessarily have to be Java developers, but the SDK is written primarily in Java and Scala. So ideally, somebody would have a good understanding of Java and be familiar with it so that they can really take a deep breath in and understand what we've built and how it could potentially be extended into whatever application they're looking to create. So for us, if you're an experienced Java developer, we would certainly love to hear from you. And we'd certainly love to see you join the Horizen Early Adopter Program and get involved.
Okay. And then what will they get out of it, to people that join Zendoo?
So they're getting early access to the first decentralized sidechain protocol, and they're going to have their opinion form a core part of that product. So we're really taking all feedback very, very seriously. We're in beta at the moment, and we're probably going to be in beta for something like the next, say, 6 months, realistically, because we really want to make sure this is battle tested and robust, and that we have a variety of applications running in testnet to really iron out all the kinks and soak up as much feedback from the community as physically possible, so that when we move into production, we've got a mature product that's fit for purpose and has a good suite of documentation to back it up. So in terms of feedback, if you're interested in the open source development space, this is a fantastic opportunity to get involved in really cutting edge technology right when it's being going through a really critical time in development. So the brunt of the work is done. It's now about honing it and making sure that it's actually fit for purpose, and talking about the rollout framework. So how do you actually launch a sidechain? What does the process look like? How can we further automate that? How can we make it easier? Are we missing components that are critical for certain business verticals? For example, at the moment, I'm talking to a gaming development company based in the UK, and they want to use sidechains for one of their pretty large MMO games. And already in that conversation, we've unearthed a whole suite of different things that they would really find critical to extend this technology into their own applications. So these types of conversations are hugely beneficial to us and ultimately hugely beneficial to any developer that wants to make use of this technology in the future. This is your chance to really make it applicable to your business needs.
Right. And Zendoo's live now, and how's the take-up been?
It is live. Take-up has been good, although as with any brand new technology, it's difficult to get the word out and it's difficult to bring people up to speed with exactly what we've built. So that's what we're doing right now. We're going through a variety of different initiatives. We're doing things like this interview to tell people that we have created the first decentralized sidechain protocol, super generalizable, use whatever language you need, use whatever consensus mechanism you need, and most importantly, make use of the Horizen blockchain. Make use of the fact that we have 40,000 active nodes around the world. Make use of the fact that we have completely liquid currency that's something like 3.5 years old and can be traded on all of the top exchanges. So these are really attractive propositions for somebody that's looking to build a blockchain application, things that you don't get when you go with a more typical private offering.
Right, right, okay. And then something else that I remembered that if you're given what's I think is coming with the next bull run, the Bitcoin halving happened, all the bubbling up by the altcoins and stuff, is Horizen's educational program. So just a reminder that, if you, because I was talking to somebody yesterday who wanted to know a friend of mine wanted to know, what is this cryptocurrency stuff? I don't understand it. It just occurred to me now talking to you, Rowan, that I can send them a link to the Horizen website and then they can go educate themselves. And there's going to be more and more demand for that sort of service anyway as more people come into the space. Just a little.
Absolutely.
Side.
And just to be clear, that's not a Horizen shill website. So we created it, but we created it because we kind of feel, well, I think we all understand that we're not going to get anywhere with this technology if we don't educate people as to why they should care about it. Why should you use a cryptocurrency? Why should you care about blockchain? Why should you care about your online privacy? None of these things are the very top of people's minds, typically. So it's kind of our job as people in this industry to really take the initiative and make the effort to go out and educate people on why they should care. So the Academy website we made is just academy.horizen.global. That takes you through a suite of educational material. It's not everything related to Horizen by any means. We've got things like what is a wallet, how does the UTXO model work, what is a blockchain, really simple things, right the way up to much more complex, how does a sidechain framework work. We've also got things about online privacy. So we've got why should you use a VPN, what's a strong password, really simple things to people like us that have been in this space for a while, but really beneficial things for a lot of people that don't pay attention to this type of thing. And we've also got ELI 5, so explain like I'm 5. So we've got some quite complex topics, really boiled down and distilled into super easy to digest, quick one-liners of exactly how things work. And the cool thing is, it's completely free, and it's split into 3 sections. So you can jump in as somebody that's never looked at blockchain technology, doesn't have a clue about what cryptocurrency is, and you can read all the beginner material. And you can actually go through it almost like a course where you go through every single topic in the beginner category. And then once you kind of get your head around that and you go, okay, cool, starting to figure it out, you can go back and you can do the same with intermediate to get a deeper understanding. And then eventually the expert material to really get under the skin of what this is all about.
Yes, I think it is a fabulous free resource if you want to learn or develop how much you know about blockchain, or you want to introduce, it to somebody who's asking. This is a really great introduction. Okay, so we've done HDE, we've done HEAP, we've done Zendoo, we've covered the Academy as a little surprise. Anything else you want to let us know about?
Yes, so we are in the process of building what we're calling a community hub. And if you're new to this space, and if you're interested in running through the Academy and bringing yourself up to speed with what technology is, a great way to trial it out for yourself without any kind of monetary risk, if you like, is to go over to the community hub. And the address for that is getzen.cash. And we've basically made a gamified faucet, so you can follow the instructions, download yourself a wallet. You can then follow some additional instructions to verify the wallet's yours. And then every 24 hours, you can go into the faucet, you can pass a quick I'm not a robot type test, and then receive some free Zen. And then that Zen is yours to do whatever you wish with. So you can send transactions, you can try out the messaging service, you can do whatever you want to do to just really see for yourself how this technology works.
Ooh, real life Zen, not pretend Zen, not testnet Zen.
No, we're talking micropayments, so you're not gonna become rich with the Horizen faucet. But it is a great way to try the technology for yourself, especially if you're going to run through something like the academy.
Okay, all right, thank you, Rowan. And then how's it going rolling out the Horizen offering to businesses and getting them to take it up? Are we anywhere near?
We're actually making some really nice progress. So I wear two hats. I do BD for both organizations. I also do business development for Horizen Labs. And I'm going to start by saying it's not easy. We're at very, very early stages of mainstream adoption for blockchain technology. So this isn't just let's rock up to Nike or let's rock up to a large business and say, hey guys, let's use blockchain for all your stuff. The technology from the mainstream perspective is still not proven. So we're fighting an uphill battle. But there are enough innovative companies out there that are on the forefront of technology and are willing to take what they perceive as risks, essentially, with new technologies to really try and bring efficiency into their organizations. So it's this type of business that's an ideal customer, essentially, for a company like Horizen Labs. So we're working with companies like Interfactura. Interfactura are a digital invoicing company based out of Mexico, and a huge company, actually. They have something like a third of Mexico's GDP coming through their system, so a really large e-invoicing platform. And they're looking to create a suite of Horizen sidechains. And I won't go into too much details of exactly what that partnership is, because it's a little bit too early to discuss completely openly. We're also working, as I hinted a little bit earlier, with a gaming company. Mm-hmm. And that's actually one that's quite exciting for me. Smaller use case than Interfactura, so less exciting monetarily, short term. But in terms of scope, I can see it being really, really popular. So if you're a game developer and you want to monetize your game, typically you would contract with someone like Stripe or PayPal, and you would pull them into your ecosystem, and you would create digital assets. So say you create a skin or a sword or something, and you charge $5 for the sword. You're going to give away $1 or so to PayPal or Stripe or whoever in transaction fees, and ongoing management and things like that. And then the digital asset itself, the user that buys it, it only exists within the game. So they log into the game and they can see their asset, but they can't take it out, they can't do anything with it, they can't go somewhere else, they can't trade it for another asset. It's kind of locked there. So what we're looking to do and what we're collaborating on is the development of a gaming sidechain, and that would have specific functionality that would work specifically for that business vertical, that would allow the gaming company to effectively own the payment rail. So rather than giving away transaction fees to PayPal or Stripe or whoever, they would actually earn an income from both selling a digital asset and from the transaction itself. And also it would give them the ability to mint digital assets on chain. So rather than just having an asset that exists only in the game, they can have a real digital collectible that exists on the blockchain, and they could withdraw that, have it in their mobile wallet, they can take it with them, they can trade it on an exchange, whatever they want to do with that asset. So it becomes a little bit more interesting for the user, and it becomes more profitable for the game developer. So I'm quite excited about that. We have a kind of quite ambitious roadmap in terms of what we want to do with that product offering. But for the time being, it's going to be application specific for one particular game. I'm quite excited to see how that relationship develops.
And when is that likely to be available publicly?
We're early days, super early days. So right now we're at the drawing board stage where we're thrashing out exactly how it would work. And you've got to remember that the sidechain system's in beta. So we've got at least a 6-month horizon, which is great for us because that means we have 6 months of development and testing before we can really move into production. So you won't see anything available for the public for at least that 6-month period, unless, of course, we go into public beta with particular applications, in which case you'll be using test Zen rather than real Zen. Other than that, the applications will work as intended.
Right. Okay. All right. Anything else, Rowan?
I don't think so, no. I mean, the main message here is dive in, check out what we're building, and get involved.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Zencash is one of those projects that's been around for, Zencash, I called it Zencash. Horizen is one of those projects that's been around for a few years, building with a settled team, quietly building their products and their applications. So if you're interested in that sort of project, go join the Discord group, go check it out for yourself. And thank you, Rowan, very much for joining me for this conversation. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profits. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Rowan signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
BetFirst makes things interesting by allowing you to make a living just by playing your favorite games. You can make anywhere from 1% to 1,000% return depending on the difficulty of the game.